Hello, it is me, and I am bringing up some notes, and we are about to jump into it. So, you saw the title. We're talking about we're talking about I'm Canadian. Warlocks, warlock craft, warlockery, the term in general. So, you came to this video with your own preconceived notions of what that word means, I am sure. Be them positive or negative. So, let's start at the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean the dictionary. So, warlock. It's a very charged, heated term in our community. But Oxford Dictionary defines warlock as a man, so right off the bat we're gendering, a man who practices witchcraft, a sorcerer. Similar words: sorcerer, wizard, diviner, necromancer, enchanter, mage, magus, thaumaturge. So, in the Oxford Dictionary, a warlock is just a guy who practices witchcraft. So, where does the heat come from? Right? Why do we suddenly feel like warlock is a taboo term? I think that it comes from unconscious Christian bias within our own community. So, what I mean by that is whether you were raised Christian or not, if you were raised in the UK, or if you were raised in North America, or Australia and New Zealand, if you're in predominantly white nations, we'll say that, you were raised with Christian bias. These cultures that I named, these countries, they're infused with Christianity on a deep, deep level, on a sociological level, on a political level. Christianity is everywhere, and it is in everything. It influences everything, positively or negatively. And when you talk about something such as witchcraft, already you're going against that Christian influence that is in our culture. However, as a community, we've overcome that pretty much, right? We've reclaimed the word witch. We've also expanded the word witch to not just mean women. However, if we look back at history, particularly in the Salem witch trials, witch was sometimes used as a term for men, but so was warlock. So it's really nothing new for us to expand the term of witch to include those that aren't just cis women. That's not new. It's just more prevalent now. Because witchcraft is more prevalent now, arguably, than it has been for a very long time. Because of the internet. So, warlock was a term that was used occasionally in that time period. Now you have to think, this term is being used not by people who practice witchcraft and warlock craft. This is not being used by people who practice magic. The term witch or warlock. Those people didn't call themselves that. Witch and warlock were being used as slurs, as derogatory terms, much like the word pagan was, to denote that these people were doing something bad in the eyes of the Christian community, the Puritans, etc. So already by you using the word witch, you're doing something so taboo, so different from even what your own pagan ancestors what's the word I'm looking for? You're doing something already so different from your own pagan ancestors. Okay? You're using a derogatory term. You've reclaimed the term witch. Okay? So, there are very scattered, few and far between, some people who've decided to reclaim the term warlock as well. And for some people, it is a gendered term and it just means men. Because while we do have evidence of witch being used to describe men and women, not that I have found. Is there any evidence that warlock was ever used to describe anyone except for a cis man? So, let's dig deeper into these definitions. The word warlock, we don't know where it comes from. We don't. There are some ideas. And one of them is in Old English, the word WARLOCK. WARLOCK means traitor, a scoundrel, a monster, a deceiver, like a bad person, right? A liar, an outlier of the community. Someone who's not to be trusted, someone who's just really bad, a bad person. Now this comes from Old English, so we're talking about a time period where Christianity is the ruling religion of the world. So again, we're using, even without religious context, we're using the word WARLOCK to denote someone that is not okay. They're not cool in society because they're horrible. Now, as it goes along, we start getting that term starting to become synonymous with the word devil. Okay, which makes that's not a hard jump to make. Because I mean, the devil is a scoundrel, and he is a liar, and he is a monster, he is a deceiver, he is those things, as taught to us by Christianity. So why wouldn't the term WARLOCK apply to the devil, or be used as a substitute for the word devil? But once you take a non-religious word and make it into a religious word, it works backward. So suddenly, the people that maybe are just thieves in the community, known thieves, they're WARLOCK. Suddenly, not only are they just thieves, they are like demonic. They are possessed by Satan. They are influenced by Satan. They're stealing not just because of whatever psychological or other need. They're doing it because they are being influenced by the devil. So the definition is working backwards. Okay? Now it is important, I think, to note that WARLOCK, there is another form, which is just where, which just means to deny someone something. You're just denying them. Where is related to the word, I wrote it down, Liogen. So WARLOCK, you're just to deny someone something. That's also important to know. But yeah, so it came to mean the devil, a synonym completely. But it was chiefly a Scottish word. It was used by the Scots. It wasn't until we get a guy named Sir Walter Scott who starts giving it so much wider use around the modern world, we'll say. Now, that is probably like the most accepted definition of what warlock means. And yes, sometimes in that definition we do get the infamous oath breaker. That terminology. But we'll get to that later. So, there is also a not as accepted definition that is thrown out there. And they think that it's a form of the Old Norse word Vartlocker, which means a caller of spirits. Which now we're getting flags, right? Because that sounds more in line with what a warlock really is in our modern context. It starts to have a religious connotation that isn't necessarily Christian or evil. It's not a monster definition. Vartlocker, a caller of spirits. Now, from a Christian view, yeah, that's still scary. We don't be calling on the spirits. But from our pagan view, our non-Christian view, that sounds cool. That describes what we do or what we are. It doesn't sound biased in any way. It's just a caller of spirits. And that's lovely. Lovely. Vartlocker. However, we do usually go with WARLOCK. But holding that and now knowing what the academic definitions of warlock are, let's look at witch. A witch, from Oxford Dictionary, is a woman, so gendered, a woman thought to have magic powers, especially evil ones, popularly depicted as wearing a black cloak and pointed hat and flying on a broomstick. Okay. Meh. Similar words include sorceress, enchantress, occultist, necromancer, Wiccan, beldam, that's weird, hex, and pythoness. However, there is a second definition in Oxford Dictionary, and that is a follower or practitioner of Wicca or of modern witchcraft. What? Okay. I had to pause, walk away, because my husband... Where were we? The definitions. Yes, a secondary definition of a witch in Oxford Dictionary. And that is a follower or practitioner of Wicca or of modern witchcraft. Yay! Don't know why that can't be put in there for warlock. So, now, if a witch is someone who practices witchcraft, what is, and so is a warlock, right? They practice warlock craft, or warlockery, which is really just witchcraft. Then what is witchcraft? Witchcraft, by Oxford definition, is the practice of magic, especially black magic, the use of spells. Now there's a second translation, or definition, and that is religious practice involving magic, an affinity with nature, usually within a pagan tradition. Okay, cute. Thank you. So then, if witchcraft is the practice of magic, what is magic? So magic, by Oxford definition, is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. So, it can also mean something that has a delightfully unusual quality. So anyway, okay, so we get it. We get what magic is. We get what witchcraft is. We get what a witch is. We should already get what a warlock is then. It's really not, it's just a different word to denote a witch. It's just a different word, that's all it is. Now, I think what scares some people in the neo-pagan community at large is that warlock is, since it is not a popular term and it is not used largely, which is the prevailing term by men and women on this path, I think that we look at, well, who is using warlock today? And a lot of that comes from Satanism. Well, there are different kinds of Satanism. There is like Christian Satanism, LaVey Satanism, and then there's like atheistic Satanism, like philosophical Satanism. But I think when we say Satanism, most people think of just like the opposite of Christianity. So there is a book called The Satanic Witch, and there is from my understanding, a companion book called The Satanic Warlock by Robert A. Johnson. So yes, some Satanists, not all Satanists even believe in magic and witchcraft and things like that, but some Satanists do practice witchcraft and magic and hoodoo and other things, and some of them use the term warlock to denote themselves. And just from these two books alone, we can see that still the term is being gendered, okay? Only women are called witches, only men are called warlocks. That was just an important thing for me to show you, because I think that is further evidence of us with our unconscious Christian bias. Presumably you watching this are not a Christian. You practice magic in some form, be you a pagan, a shaman, a witch, a Wiccan, whatever, a root worker, whatever you are, a druid. You are practicing magic and you're probably not following a Christian path in any form. So why would you still allow Christianity to influence your thoughts on words and what is acceptable in the pagan community? Christianity should have no say on what is allowed in another religious path. No religious path should have say on what's allowed in another religious path. That's ludicrous. However, we are still doing it as a community. As I said, not consciously. It is unconscious Christian bias. And that has heavily got us swept up in the word warlock. Now, it is also important to note that I think some people do not like the term warlock because, again, it kind of forces us to define gender. And a lot of us, be us LGBT, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, regardless of whether you fit that or not, we are living in a time where increasingly, especially in the pagan community that has become so LGBT inclusive, we are in a time where we no longer appreciate a binary gender system. And I agree, because I do not either. Male and female, male and female. We're gendering and sexing everything, including words. So, if we're going to sit here and take the word witch and reclaim it and make it into something different and new and inclusive, there's no reason that the word warlock cannot be done the same. Now, I probably will make another video in the future talking about how warlock, for me, what it specifically means for me, and how it does differ from the word witch, but that's another video. For this video, and in general, without my personal gnosis, warlock and witch are the same thing. Okay? On paper, they mean the exact same thing. And you can take the gender out of it. You've taken gender out of the word witch, so take it out of warlock. Take your unconscious Christian bias about a warlock meaning an oath breaker out of it. Because a witch doesn't mean anything good either. From a Christian definition. Warlock is an oath breaker. A witch is an old hag woman who works with Satan. Okay? They're both oath breakers. They both mean oath breaker. Okay? So witch is not a good term either. So, live and let be. Do not decide what is appropriate for other people's paths. And check your unconscious Christian bias. That's a little bit of shadow work there for you to do. I think I covered everything that I wanted to touch on. If not, as I said, I'll probably make another video. Probably several. I mean, the name of the channel is Warlock, so. Anywho, thank you so much. Shadow work. Unconscious Christian bias. Let people use the word warlock. Which is not a great term either in terms of definition. Thank you so much. Goodbye.